Hey everyone, this is Stefan from Project Life Mastery.
And I'm Tatiana from Lux Curves.
And happy Valentine's Week. You know, every year now for the last few years, we've done videos like this to share with you guys lessons, strategies, and principles that have really allowed us to grow our relationship, to create more love and passion. And today, we want to share with you guys 7 daily habits for building a romantic relationship.
Yeah, this is so important because it's pretty easy to fall in love with almost anyone, really. But to stay in love is a whole nother story. And so there are daily rituals and habits and practices that we can do to really grow the relationship and to make sure that that passion is still alive.
Yeah, so I think the first most important daily habit that you can have is the daily habit of gratitude and appreciation for your partner and for your relationship. You know, very often when you first meet your partner, it's exciting, it's new, you really appreciate them and you're falling in love with that person, but inevitably what happens over several weeks, months, or years is something known as the law of familiarity kicks in, and it states that anything that you're around too often, you can start to take a little bit for granted. And so we have to be aware of that, and it's our jobs to make sure that every single day we're always appreciating our partner. We're grateful for who they are and finding things, new things that we can appreciate and be grateful for about them. You know, every single morning I've got a morning ritual that I do of gratitude. And I'll think about Tatiana and think, what am I grateful for? What do I appreciate about her? And I'll think, I'm so grateful for her love. I'm so grateful for your beauty. I'm so grateful for your intelligence. I'm so grateful for your generosity and your support of my mission and our purpose. And I just think of more and more things, and that fills myself up with gratitude, which totally changes the way that I feel about the relationship, which will therefore change how I behave and how I show up and what I give and what I contribute. So making sure every single day you're grateful, you're appreciative, just by asking yourself the question, what am I grateful for in my relationship? What am I grateful for, or what can I appreciate about my partner? That will put you in that space of really just being excited and passionate about your relationship again.
Mm-hmm. The second one is love. So they say love is like oxygen to the spirit. And I believe that is so true. We always have to make this conscious decision to choose love on a daily basis. And when I met Stefan, I committed to Stefan. I chose to love him unconditionally. And I think this is important to bring up because you can love someone, but sometimes we put conditions on that love. So we say, well, I'll love you only if you do this, or I'll love you only if you love me back. And we might not verbally express these conditions, but they're there. And so it really affects the relationship because true love should be unconditional, I believe. And so when we are giving unconditional love, that means that even in the hard moments, we choose love and we use love. You know, if we're having an argument or a challenge, and challenges happen, there is no such thing as a perfect relationship. Perfection is actually the lowest human standard because deep down we know it's unattainable. So if we're setting ourselves up, you know, I want a perfect relationship, well, that is never going to be attainable. All we can do is try and grow on a daily basis together and apart so we can become better as individuals and as a couple as well. Yeah. But if we are in an argument or something, or a little issue arises, you know, it's also making sure that you understand that you separate the behavior from the person. You know, so I have already identified Stefan. I know his intent is pure. I know his love is pure. I know he loves me unconditionally and I love him unconditionally. So if he says something or if he does something that I may not agree with, you know, based on the way that I've grown up and my beliefs and my standards, doesn't mean I'm right. I just may not agree with it. But I separate that from who he is. So I'm not blaming that person, I'm not labeling him, I'm not identifying him with mean words, and I'm not fighting, I'm not contributing, I'm not adding fuel to the fire, because now I'm approaching this with love. I'm loving the person, I know this happened, but I'm choosing to love this person in the moment. And so I think it really helps in those situations where conflict can arise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think just, you know, the key, as she said, is committing to unconditional love. That if you're going to be with someone and you're going to decide that you're both going to be in a committed relationship, unconditional love means you're going to love this person no matter what. you're going to love them no matter what they say or what they do. You're going to love them even if you're scared, even if it's unfair, even if they don't deserve it. You're still going to love, because you're not doing it so that you're going to get something in return. You're not giving love, but you got a hook on the end of that, and you're like, okay, I'll love you, I'm going to give this to you, I'm going to do all this for you, but then you have expectations. That's not love, that's trading. Yeah. So unconditional love, and I think what happens for a lot of people is they settle for connection. They settle and they stay at the surface because love's too scary. Love means that, if you give it your all and you love this person, you give to them in this way, and you're vulnerable to this person, then it potentially means that you can get hurt. Yeah. And you have to still trust. You still have to have faith in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And it's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. Mm-hmm. And at least if you give your love to this person and they don't give it back, or the relationship doesn't work out, then you're going to still become a better person in the process, more conscious, more loving, more giving, that the next relationship that you go into, someone's going to appreciate that much more. So don't withhold your love. Don't hold it back. Don't allow your fear to prevent you from giving it your all in the relationship, because whenever you withhold it and you're not giving the love and you're maybe punishing your partner, the only person you're really punishing is yourself and the relationship. And there's different levels, there's different depths of love that you can experience. Yeah. And the deeper that you go, the more you open up, the more that you give, then the deeper the love's going to be. And the best way to experience love is to give it. Because when you give someone else love, you get filled up with what you're giving.
Yeah. And if you're in a state of fear because you're scared to open up, you're scared to be vulnerable, because you think this person can hurt you so much, well, that very same person who you think can hurt you so much can also love you so much. And like Stefan said, there are different layers of love. And if you keep closing yourself off, sometimes you're in a relationship and then all of a sudden it starts to get deep, and then you break up, and then you start a new relationship, starts to get deep, and then you break up and you start a new relationship. Well, you're only experiencing one level of love. It's like an onion. You got to peel the layers. And there are so many different levels, but you have to open yourself up to them. And to open yourself up, you have to be vulnerable. You have to face the fear. Yes, you might get hurt, but you also might experience amazing love that you've never experienced before. So for me, I'd much rather open myself up with the risk of getting hurt, but the possibility of also experiencing this great, amazing love.
Yeah, it's worth it. And one other piece I want to share too is also loving yourself. Because if you don't really love yourself, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to receive love from somebody else. And so making sure you also have a daily practice of loving yourself, appreciating yourself, which is going to allow you to receive love that much more. And another piece I want to mention too is that understand that everyone has different ways to give and receive love. For example, the daily habit could be just saying I love you to that person and looking deep in their eyes, and that could make that person feel loved. But for other people, they say talk is cheap. Words don't mean anything. I want you to show me my love. Show me love. In which case, they want you to maybe, they have a different love language. Maybe for them, it's acts of service, or maybe it's physical touch. There's different ways, or spending time with that person. You've got to identify, what is this person's love language? How do they receive love? And you have to give love in the way that they need it, not the way that you think they need it, not the way that you need it, because you might have a different love language than they do. So really identify, what is this person's love language, and what are the actions, the love that I can express this love to my partner, whether that's words, whether that's touch, whether that's time with that person, and making sure that you give that to them every day.
Yeah, so we'd recommend for you to read the book, The 5 Love Languages, if you've never heard of this before. That's how you can identify what are some love languages, and perhaps identify for yourself what are the top 2 or 3 love languages that you like to receive love in, and also for your partner. Because like Stefan said, it might be different for you than it is for your partner, and you must know that in order to effectively give love to your partner. Otherwise, they might not interpret it the way that you think they are.
Yes. So habit number 3 is the habit of presence, okay? The daily habit of presence. Giving your attention, okay, your full, undivided presence to your partner every single day. So often we get caught up with things, we're busy, work, we have so many things in our minds that we forget to really acknowledge our partner and to give them that full presence that we all really crave, to build that connection with one another. And we have a ritual that we do every day, almost every day, 5 or 10 minutes of just giving each other our presence. And one of our favorite ways that we'll demonstrate for you guys is something known as eye gazing. Okay, eye gazing. So the key here, guys, is to get rid of any distractions or phone. So many people, when you go to dinner with your partner or you're, maybe making love, they're in their head. They're thinking about what you're going to do that day at work or other things on your mind. And you got to understand your partner can feel that. They can feel your presence. They can feel when you're in your head. They can feel when you're focused on the past or the future. And so really the key here is to be in the now, as Eckhart Tolle says, the power of now, being here in the present moment. So we'll sit across from each other, usually cross-legged, and we like to do some meditation and whatnot to really calm our minds, to allow us to be here in the present moment. But we'll just stare into each other's eyes, and we won't speak, and we'll spend 5 to 10 minutes just staring in each other's eyes. They say the eyes are the window to the soul. And as I'm doing this, I'm not thinking about anything else but just giving my full attention to her, being fully present with Tatiana. And if I do have thoughts, sometimes I'll direct and send energy, send love her way. Sometimes I'll do a Ho'oponopono prayer, which is an ancient Hawaiian prayer. And I'll just say in my mind as I stare into her eyes, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
Sometimes what I'll do is I will express gratitude non-verbally to him. So while we're staring into each other's eyes, I'll look at him and I'll think of all the things that I'm grateful for. How passionate he is, how hard he works, how he loves to contribute, give back to people, how handsome he is, what an amazing partner he is to me, how he loves his family so much, all of these things. And even though I'm not verbally expressing it, he feels that energy and he feels that love. So there is a huge exchange of energy.
And really what this does, guys, is you're giving the gift of presence, and you're building a deeper connection, a deeper bond. You feel more connected to your partner. You're prioritizing your relationship and this connection. And this is something you can do before you make love, during love making, staring into each other's eyes as you're making love with your partner, and just feeling them and connecting deeply with them. And they're going to feel that. And it's really amazing what that can do. We have times where we do this, where you get emotional, right? Or you cry. And you just feel your partner and how much they love you, and you give them love, and it's one of the most remarkable feelings that you can experience.
Yeah, and sometimes, especially that feminine energy craves the presence of the masculine energy. So keep that in mind, because the feminine knows when the masculine energy is not present. And sometimes, if you're not having daily practices like this and you're lacking that presence, you might be in a relationship, a committed relationship, but you might feel like a single person. And that's really kind of a low place to be, because you feel so alone and so isolated.
Yeah, and I think one thing that helps us too is just to focus on our breath, because if you do find yourself, you've got a very overactive mind. One great saying that I love is that your mind is like a kite and your breath is like the wind. And so your breath controls the mind. It determines where the kite goes. And so really focusing on your breath, your breathing. So when I'm staring into her eyes, I just want to focus on my breathing, calm my mind, right? Eliminate all those distractions, all those thoughts, and be here in this moment. As I said, the power of now.
Yes. The next one is polarity. So polarity is like a magnet. So there are two sides, two charges, a positive and a negative. And so positive and negative will attract, but a positive and a positive will repel, or a negative and a negative will repel. And so we have to be aware of this. So each human being, we have a feminine and a masculine energy within us. So I myself, Tatiana, I have the feminine energy and I have the masculine energy. Stefan has both of those as well. And throughout the day, we might shift energies. I might be more in my feminine, I might be more in my masculine. Maybe while I'm doing certain tasks, I'm more in a certain energy. The feminine tends to be a little bit more creative. Masculine is a little bit more focused. So understanding the differences and understanding when it is that you are in those energies. Now, when it comes to a relationship, you want to have opposites, whether it is a heterosexual relationship or not. You need to have opposites in order to have that passion, that polarity, because if you don't have that, then you'll just be like friends. So it's important to make sure that if I'm in my feminine energy, then Stefan's in his masculine energy if we want to have that passion. If I'm in my masculine energy and then we want to have passion, then Stefan should switch on his feminine energy. So it's not to say that we can't both be in feminine energies, we can't both be in our masculine energies, we totally can, but just understand that if we're both in that energy, we might not have like a super passionate romantic relationship, it might be more of a friendship. So understanding, okay, maybe when we're watching a movie and we want to be silly, like that's a good time to turn that on. But when we are about to make love, if we want to have that passion, well, we want to have the polarity and we need to have the opposite energies.
Yeah.
So it's understanding, okay, how can I cultivate this within myself now? Knowing this, how can I cultivate this energy? And so we all have one nature. It's going to be different for everyone. For me personally, my feminine energy is my nature. I figured that out. And so I know that I like to spend more time in my nature. We all kind of need to spend the primary, most of our time in our nature. And if we don't, we'll feel a little bit of a disconnect. So it's important to understand that. And so what I need to do is I need to make sure that I'm doing things that help me get into my feminine if I'm not able to do that throughout, where I'm spending most of my time. Like I spend a lot of time working, and when I'm working, I'm primarily using my masculine energy. So things for me like, going to a dance class, singing in the shower, dancing while I do my makeup, or like, cooking, or anything that's creative that helps put me in my feminine energy. And so by doing this, I'm not only gifting myself by honoring myself, by giving myself the gift of being in my nature, but I'm also gifting Stefan because now I'm gifting him with this feminine energy which complements his masculine energy and allows us to have this attraction and this passion.
Yeah, and this is what creates that attraction. When Tatiana is in her feminine and she's in her essence, which feminine energy is all about free and wild and expressive and sensuality and flow.
Using your senses.
There's no structures, and the masculine is all about control and focus and efficiency and action, and it's that kind of energy. And for me, because that's my nature, I have to make sure that I have a daily habit to put myself in my masculine energy, okay? So for me, that's going to the gym, doing things that are physical, competition, sports, my business oftentimes, because it's about achieving things and overcoming challenges and adversity and pushing through and breaking through to new levels. That's all that masculine energy that I can fill myself up with. But there are times where it's useful for me to be in my feminine. The feminine, my more sensitive or caring or sensual side of myself, right? And so it's knowing and understanding those two energy dynamics, you living in your nature and your partner doing the same, so that way when you come together, the sparks are flying, there's attraction, there's passion, and if you catch yourselves missing that passion, missing that attraction, then this is the place that you got to go back to, is really making sure that you're living in your nature and your essence.
Yeah, for sure. And also understand, it can be a little bit harder for women who they know that their nature is feminine in society today, because the masculine energy is it's greatly rewarded, especially in the workforce. So oftentimes a lot of women, we're trying so hard to be in our masculine energy, to have those certain qualities that are rewarded in the workforce, but we have to understand it's okay. Like we can be in our feminine energy and be just as successful. Masculine and feminine, they are equal. There's no one energy that's greater than the other. Like I said, we have both within us. So it's understanding that and just nurturing your nature.
Yes. So the next daily habit is a habit of physical touch. Okay, making sure that you're touching and you're being intimate with your partner every single day. So, for us, we love to touch each other. We love to hold hands. We love to cuddle. We love to hug. We love to make love as well. And I think massages, and these are things that you have to do every day. In fact, there's been plenty of research that shows that Physical touch releases oxytocin, releases different chemicals and hormones, which create more of a connection and more love amongst one another. And so, one thing that's always been important for us is to have sex daily, to make sure we prioritize that. I've always, kind of been blown away by relationships where they say they have sex, once a week or once a month. And for me, that's not a passionate relationship. That's not the standard we want to live at. And I think a lot of people in society, they accept that that's the norm. And they accept, oh, well, when you have kids or when you're married and you're busy with your career and all this stuff, all that is an excuse. You have to decide in your relationship what's the standard that you're going to live by, and you're not going to live by other people's standards or what most of society does. Because if you're living a relationship like most people, well, guess what? 1 in 2 relationships end in divorce. So you do not want to be doing what everyone else is doing, because successful people, successful relationships, they do what the failures won't do. So for us, it's making sure we make love. We prioritize that. Even if we're tired, even if you don't feel like it, we're still making sure that we're fulfilling each other's needs on a daily basis. And, to be honest, it's not every day. I mean, for the most part it is, but there's times where, someone's sick or we're traveling, we're just both like passed out at the end of the day. But I'd say 95% of the time, it's been a consistent thing for us. And I think that's just one of the best ways to be intimate with your partner, to connect with them, to experience love, to give love. We both study Tantra, and so there's different levels and depths that you can go to by adding in a spiritual practice to your lovemaking as well. But really what it comes down to is just making it a priority. And there's tons of science and studies that show the benefits of having sex, for your heart, for the chemicals, the connection that you have, many, many great benefits. So I'm sure that's not going to feel like work, but making sure that you prioritize it and give each other that pleasure to give, to receive, and to keep that relationship passionate.
And remember, give unconditionally. So even if you don't feel like it, you want to always give unconditionally no matter what. But if you're in the position where, you're working 2-3 jobs and you're so tired at the end of the night that it's like sex is just off the table, it's not even an option, but you know that it is affecting your relationship, then you got to get that in check, really prioritize things. Because, why are you working those 2-3 jobs? Is it because you're trying to make more and more money so you can live a more lavish lifestyle, buy more things, or whatever that is? Maybe that's not as important as what this is doing to your relationship. So really putting your relationship first and seeing that your partner needs you. They need more than just you providing for the family. They need your physical touch, your connection. I think it should definitely be a priority.
Yeah, and just be aware of any excuses or stories that we create, because, listen, I get it. People say, well, I've got the kids and everything, and there's no time to. But if something is a must, then you find the way. And understand, by prioritizing a relationship, by making love together, it actually allows you to be in a better space, which will also influence your kids. Because your kids, they see the dynamic that the parents have, right? Whether you're in love or not, connected and intimate, they feel that, and you become a role model for them, right? And that's something that's going to influence your kids in a very important way. So making sure that you don't have any stories or excuses, you just make it a must. That's the standard you're going to live by no matter what, and you just do the best you can to live up to that.
And you can even, taking things another level, like sex it's not just a physical thing. If you learn Tantra, practice Tantra, it's like you really take it to another level where it becomes a spiritual experience that is just unlike anything that you can experience elsewhere. All right, moving on to the next one, which is acts of service, giving to your partner. Just giving unconditionally, giving as much as you can. Simple things, go back to the basics, whether that's making the bed in the morning, handing them the towel after they get out of the shower, cooking some breakfast, seeing what it is that your partner needs. Is he stressed right now? Is he going through a lot of stress? What can I do to provide for him? What can I do to be there for him and support him in this moment? So for example, if he is, shooting an interview and he's really busy, well, I'm going to offer my help to help set up the camera, to see if I can, help prepare whatever it is. Just offer yourself up to give to your partner, because I think they will always appreciate that. And I know I would for sure. So think about, okay, what would I appreciate in my life, and give it to your partner. You know, don't just ask for something, give it.
Yeah, the biggest thing that destroys relationships is selfishness, right? It's a horrible habit. And you know, there's different levels where a lot of people, level one is people that are only focused on themselves. And they're focused on what they're not getting. My partner's not doing this for me. They're not doing that for me. And oftentimes, people, they go into this mode, this selfish mode, where because they feel they're not being given to, they think, well, why am I going to give to this person if they're not giving to me? And that's the horrible way of thinking. That's a way to destroy a relationship. Instead, you have to be more conscious. You don't have to wait for your other partner to be giving, and you can't be measuring and keeping track and have a yardstick where you're like, you know, well, I gave this to them this day, and I made the bed, and I did this, and I cleaned the house, and I picked up after them, and I, you know, did this and that, but they didn't give XYZ back to me, so therefore, why am I giving? They owe me. That's a horrible place to be. You have to make the decision you're going to be a giver, because a relationship is a place that you go to give, not to get. And whatever you give, you're going to get back tenfold. I can promise you that. So making sure that you're giving every day, you know, going above and beyond, you know, understand that you guys are a unit, okay? You are one, you are connected, and that whatever you give to your partner is going to light them up. They're going to be happier, they're going to feel better, which therefore is going to come back to you in some way, shape, or form. So it doesn't feel like, you don't have to be scarce about your giving. You have to be in an abundance mentality around that. And we all have different needs, and it's identifying, what does this person need from me? Maybe they need certainty. Maybe they need significance. Maybe they need love. Maybe they need to have a sense of contribution. And to identify what is it this person needs. You're always kind of like a detective in the relationship, and you're trying to discover and uncover things within your partner in ways that you can further light them up and give and meet their needs. And when you do that, you're going to have a love slave. You're going to have a relationship that is never going to end, because you're both fulfilled on that deep level.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about meeting the other person's needs. It's, you know, if Stefan is lighting me up every single day, I feel so significant in his life. I feel like I'm number one. I feel so much certainty in our relationship. I feel like we're going to be together forever. We are a perfect match, you know, perfect. I feel like he contributes to me, I contribute to him, and we grow on such high levels. Well, I'll never leave him, and he'll never leave me, because we're fulfilling each other's needs. We're meeting each other's needs on such high levels that we know, like, why leave and potentially not get that somewhere else? We are getting what we want and what we need from each other. Yeah. So we have such high levels of certainty because we are consistently on a daily basis meeting each other's needs, and through contribution, through giving. Yeah. You know, never withholding love, always giving love.
Yes, and remember that whatever you give, you get filled up by what you're giving.
Yes.
So whatever you want to experience more and within yourself, give that to your partner. If you want more love, give love. If you want, you know, more passion, give passion. If you want more appreciation, give appreciation, and you'll be filled up by it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so making sure you have that standard in that relationship, that you're going to be a giver. And you might think, well, Stefan, what if I'm giving to my partner and I'm just giving so much to them and they're not giving back, and maybe the relationship doesn't work out, maybe it ends. Well, listen, by you giving no matter what and still being that giver, you're going to become a better partner in the process for the next relationship that you're going to be in. So build these habits now regardless, so that you become more, and you become a more conscious giving person.
Yeah.
Now,
and you might even feel like, you know, that person doesn't deserve my love. But really, you have to, it's in those times where you're yelling at each other, you're arguing, it's stressful, there's a lot of stress in a stressful situation. It's in those moments where these practices come into play, because it's very easy to talk about this on camera. It's very easy to take notes. And when everything is going perfect in your life, it's easy to implement these strategies. But it's only when it's during the times where times get tough that these things really come into play, and you have to practice them. And it becomes a lot harder to actually practice these things, because it's in that moment where you feel like, oh, you just want to kill that person, you don't want to have anything to do with that person, you don't want to give love, that person doesn't deserve love. But it's in that moment where you have to have greater sense of awareness, and you have to say, okay, what does this really mean? And you have to change the situation and just give love no matter what.
Yes.
It takes a lot. It takes a higher person.
Yes. So the last daily habit is one of creating magic moments. You see, every day you have to create new moments, new memories that you can always appreciate within your relationship. Now, at the end of your life, you're not going to remember everything. You're going to remember certain moments. And so every day, the habit of creativity, of thinking of new ways that you can maybe surprise your partner or spice things up or create variety. They say variety is the spice of life. And making sure that your relationship doesn't get stagnant. I think a lot of people, they stop growing. They get into a relationship and at first it's great, but then they stop growing. They stop prioritizing it. They stop doing those little things that they did at the beginning. And there's a saying that goes, if you do what you did at the beginning of the relationship, then there'll never be an end. So think back, what did you do at the beginning of the relationship? At the beginning you sent them a text message, to wish them a great day, or you gave them a surprise phone call throughout the day, or you wrote them a little note, a little love letter, or you planned a spontaneous date or an adventure or an experience. Those little things, those little habits, you have to make sure you continue to do all throughout your relationship. And you got to prioritize it. You got to make sure you put attention on that if you want to create that relationship that's juicy and exciting and has that aliveness to it. One thing that you can do, at the very beginning of a relationship, we created a relationship bucket list. And we made a list and we brainstormed. We had this relationship journal, which we still have, where we made a list of all the things we want to do together. Travel to this place or go to this restaurant or have this experience.
They were not realistic things. We had a huge imagination.
And some of them are small and some of them are huge, right? And, we would just always try to, whenever we'd hang out, just to check something off that list. There was never something that, we got bored, we never really felt bored because we always had new things. Maybe watching a certain movie or a certain TV series together, things like that, but also making sure that you appreciate those moments. You acknowledge them. You fill yourself up with them. One thing that you can do is at the end of every day, take out like a Post-it note and have each of you write down what was a magic moment that you guys had or a moment throughout the day that you never want to forget. And each of you write it on that note and you put it in a jar. And you share it, each night before you go to bed, but you put it in the jar and you build up that jar over several months. And then eventually you go back, you open the jar, you go through and you remember and reminisce on all those great moments that you guys shared together. And I think that's going to create a magnificent relationship if you're always striving to create new memories, new experiences together, and you're creating that variety and that excitement.
Yeah, it just takes a little bit of creativity. You can turn the ordinary into extraordinary. And I remember one time, Steph and I were working side by side on our laptops, and I'm like deep in thought on my computer, and all of a sudden I get this airdrop and I accept it. And it's like this heart saying, I love you. It's like a little drawing, and he airdropped it to me from right beside me. It was just so cute. And it just kind of changed the energy and the dynamic of the day. And it's something so small. But it made such an impact on me, and I remember it till this day. And there's even, a time I remember when, Seth and I were living separately. He was in his apartment, I was at my home, and I unexpectedly surprised him at his door. And I was wearing this trench coat, and underneath I had lingerie. And so I was like, can I come in? And little things like that. And at the traffic lights, every time, even to this day, every time we get to a traffic light, we always kiss each other. It's just our thing.
Yeah.
So little things.
Little things like that. Yeah. So listen, we hope this video has been helpful for you and that you can share this with your partner. Or if you're single right now, this can be some valuable things that you can learn, that when you have a relationship and you attract someone in your life, you can build this foundation from the very beginning. But these are 7 habits that I believe that if you focus on doing them every day, it's going to take your relationship, your love, your passion to a whole new level. So if you want to learn more about me at Project Life Mastery, then subscribe to me at Project Life Mastery on YouTube or my podcast. Leave a comment below, I'd love to hear certain habits that you might have in your relationship. And do you want to tell people about you and your channel?
Yeah, you can find my YouTube channel Lux Curves or Lux Biz. I have 2. You can also find me on Instagram, Tatiana Bure.
Yes. So thank you guys so much. Happy Valentine's Day and happy Valentine's week. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.